Michelle Dodd is a support worker at unhoused who has overcome battles with addiction to now support people with that shared experience. Her story epitomizes the resiliency of the human spirit and the ability of people to overcome their circumstances, no matter how dire.
So just to give you a little background on myself, I've been in the social service work industry now for 2.5 years. And I did do my practicum here in Danwin. And like Scott said to me, I did my practicum here, then I volunteered while I worked full-time for our place. And I started out with the My Place Society at the tents in the gym. When that closed down, I moved out to Choices, which is the youth detention center in View Royal. That is now closed down, and so I've been laid off and lucked out with all my volunteering and keeping my foot in the door to come and work here. So I'm really excited. I love it here. So I suffered, with alcohol and cocaine abuse. So when I came to that realization of trying the drug of the substance, I didn't think alcohol was an issue. I had scared myself and wanted to go to treatment. So I went to treatment in Edgewood and Nanaimo in 2009. When I ended in there, I still had the attitude that I could do everything myself, and I wanted to know how long the course was to fix me. So they said 6 to 8 weeks, and sure enough, I was done in 6 weeks. And then they kept me for another week. And I was angry, but when they let me go the week later, I didn't know how. I was outside the gates, and now I didn't know how to live in society. At that point, I still really didn't believe I drank too much. I went to Edgewood because of drug abuse. And everybody I knew drank anyway, so, what was wrong with people? I had come out of Edgewood. I've lost my marriage. I had lost my home. I'd lost 2 vehicles to drug abuse. I lost my job. And worst of all, I somewhat lost contact with my children. So I got out of Edgewood and I stayed clean and sober for 1.5 years. But the issue there was that I stopped aftercare program. I thought the guy was a jerk, so I wouldn't go to that group. And then I also didn't get involved in any other meetings. Next thing I know, I was having some trouble with my legs, and one day this big, huge black thing shows up on my leg, and it felt like it was moving. I was diagnosed then with vasculitis, which is a rare disease. 1 in 50,000 North Americans get it. It's not contagious, and it's not hereditary. I had ulcers all over my legs, every single fingertip, the tips of my ears, the inside of my mouth, and I couldn't walk without a walker. At that time, I had home support, literally I couldn't stand long enough to wash 1 sink full of dishes. I couldn't stand long enough to cook a can of soup. A can of soup would last me for 4 days. Sometimes I'd eat half a sandwich, but mostly I went back to drinking. I was started some medication, some steroids in order to stop the vasculitis, and I was taking them and swallowing down with alcohol, not solid foods. And I had gone from being a beer drinker straight to vodka, Southern Comfort, and shots of whatever. I'd have a bottle of vodka in the freezer. I'd be drinking that while I was making coffee in the morning. And at that time, I only weighed 106 pounds. I could only walk half a driveway and touch this fence in the place I was and walk back. That was the extremity of my walk. I could barely make it to my own bathroom. So people came in and cleaned for me and washed my dishes and made me a lunch. But I was lucky enough that I didn't go back to the cocaine. But the real lesson there is that I went to hard liquor because it's faster than beer. So that was my form of cocaine. At that time, I was given 1 year to live if I was going to continue going down the road I was going, taking medications with alcohol. And I actually went to my rheumatologist one time at a noon appointment, so hammered she wouldn't even write me prescriptions anymore. That didn't matter. I was like, I'm invincible. It's not going to kill me. And I continued to drink. So they stopped supplying me with that, and I still continued to drink. I got worse before I got better. I had made an application to PWD for disability, and I was denied 3 times at that time. That was quite a process. I didn't actually receive disability until I could make it with my walker up in front of a board of people. I don't know if they needed to physically see me or what, but they didn't know much about the disease. So I wasn't actually homeless at that time, but I stayed in a toxic relationship because I had nowhere else to go. Somebody that had more money than me, that would help supply me with alcohol, and somebody that would make me touch that fence. And with all honesty, as toxic as this relationship was, the guy helped me get stronger. So he would phone me in the middle of the day and, did you touch that fence today? And for some reason, even if he didn't, I felt like somebody was watching. I needed to get out the back door, around a little sidewalk, and only half the driveway. And I had to physically touch that fence. As bad as the relationship was for alcohol, because he continued to drink and stuff, finally I learned how to walk all the way around the block. That took a long, long time. At that time, I also had pretty much lost all my family had disowned me because they thought this guy was an idiot. They thought it was his fault that I was drinking again. Blame game. So I also, during that time, had a driver to take me to an appointment a week from Sandwich Volunteers. I did go back and actually volunteer and be a driver for them too because of their help for me. So what I was doing with that driver is, there was the odd appointment and stuff, and I was going to AA meetings down at Dunedin, and I was hammered, just hammered at noon. And I'd sit in I call it the exit seat, crawl up there with my cane, and driver would drop me off, come back and pick me up, so that I could hurry up and get home and drink some more. I could hardly wait. Going to those meetings, I have no idea how I could have heard or how I crashed or who was watching over me, but I was drunk, and I heard from one person there, and this is why I really feel storytelling is so important, is one person there, even though I was under the influence, said to me, I could hear this talking about detox here in Victoria, and I was like, you mean I don't have to spend $17,000 out of my divorce settlement to go to treatment that didn't fix me? And so that's what I did. I enrolled myself in detox. And as many of you might know or might not know, that's not an easy process. It's, you have to make a million phone calls. First of all, you have to humble yourself well enough and swallow your pride and, say that you need help. So I made all the phone calls, and I did get in there. Of course, like most, I had one hurrah on the way there in the morning. But I was lucky that, I only had to be given one Valium at once. I don't know how that worked. And I was there for 6 days just looking out for myself. I had my walker, and people would carry my tray, and I don't know, I thought life was like that forever. After 6 days in detox, I had to wait 10 days in between to get to stabilization, and I did that. So, so I went to stabilization for 30 days. From there, I went directly to extended housing here in Victoria. And then after that, I returned back to the toxic relationship. But I was clean and sober and I was much healthier, and I was much stronger and clear-headed. I was attending RAS and AA meetings, and sometimes I was doing it 3 times a day. And I took a lot of the services that were offered to me. I got a sponsor, I did the step work, I used mental health AOT, I took ASR, codependency, anger management, all that was offered to me. I did exactly what they asked me to do because I was desperate to stay sober. And so I had a drug and alcohol counselor, and then at 3 months, I relapsed. My sponsor told me at that time, look, you can either work with this program or we're done. If you want to continue drinking, we're done working together. And that's when I made that choice that I wanted to stay sober. And that was 6 years ago, guys, March 11th. So I thought I'd let you know that the most helpful services for me were RAS and AA. I got to learn more about myself there. I learned how to be honest with myself and others. I learned what my needs were and who I was, and what I needed to do to keep myself healthy. This is where I found out who true friends were. Like-minded people who loved me unconditionally and taught me how to love back. This is where I learned that if I don't take care of myself first, I am absolutely no use to others. This is where I learned to become myself and change my learned childhood behaviors to who I wanted to be. I learned to be patient and kind, and I wanted to help others. So I became loving, non-judgmental of so many others just like me. And my first year of sobriety seemed easy. I did step work and all that, and moved out of my toxic relationship, out in my home. Really proud of that, because I finally got PWD. I used the food banks, I used GT hiring to get resume writing skills, and I used TAPS with my PWD. But my second year was crazy. It was really hard because I had to learn to live in society now, and it was no longer about the alcohol. It was about the people, places, and things that I had to learn to develop without alcohol. I wanted to do everything. I wanted everything right now. I wanted to change my life. I want my kids back. I wanted to get a house. I want a car. I want an education. But I had the right help. I had a sponsor, I had counselors, I had all RAS, AA, and they helped me take the step back and just go, hey, how many years have you been drinking? Just take some baby steps. So I did that. I worked part-time at Home Depot, and I started doing service work in AA, sponsoring, speaking at Detox, and learning more about myself. So in 3 years of sobriety, I went back to school. Just so you know, disability does help for grants. For school, I went to CDI College and took their social service workers course. I was so proud of myself because I was a mature student. I didn't need my grade 12. And I graduated with a 3.75 GPA, and I didn't even know what 1 was. I thought it was out of 10. I was like, no. Anyway, so 97.3%. So I was almost on the dean's list. I didn't know what those were either. So I did my practicum here, as you've been told. This is where I learned about family. That was not blood, it was real family. This is where I wanted to work. This was the place. I felt that right from the beginning. I could just feel the love in this house, in the family environment. However, there were no openings, and I got an opportunity to work up at my place, like I said, and dumped Home Depot because I knew that my place was supposed to be a 4-month program, and nobody in this city gets attached to services in 4 months. It's so hard to do. I chose this line of work as I'm just so grateful for the help that I received from people and the community and the services we have. We have amazing services. I just thought that since I'd used so many of these resources, I could help other people here in our community and introduce them to the resources. This gives me an opportunity here to let you know that the resources are out there if you want them. Yep, you gotta be real patient. You gotta humble yourself. I had to swallow my pride to walk into that welfare office. And you need lots of support. You can't do it on your own. And that's why I wanted to be in this business. So I learned to be grateful for our systems here, and instead of angry at them. Why do they take so long? Who am I? Shouldn't I be number one? So acceptance was a huge key for me there. Also answered the one part about this field is stressful. However, I have also learned a work and life balance, and that is because of my program, my AA program, I believe. I've learned that it's okay to nap when I'm tired. I thought that was a sign of weakness. I have learned that it's okay to only stay 3 days in Vancouver with my family and not 8. So I see people when I want to, and look after this first. It has to be this first, because if this first isn't there, I'm absolutely no help to anybody else. I think the biggest challenge in this field, and I'm sure a lot of people saw this with me, is when someone gives up. Because it's a field, recovery is like 1 step forward and 3 back. And how do we look and find that continued support? Just keep going, and put one foot in front of the other. I just, I want to support people, that these are just life lessons. I didn't get that. I thought the world was after me, or why always me, poor me. And we usually learn from those mistakes. There's usually something when we fall back on something, is for a reason. Is that maybe the next door that's opening is better. Today, I know I can find a positive out of most negatives, and I'm going to share with you, here's a perfect example. I'm a grateful alcoholic today. I have no idea why people used to say that, but I would never have learned all these life lessons that it was okay to be who I want to be and not what everybody else in the world wants me to be. And it has just taught me, all the life lessons have just taught me how to become a better person and a better part of society. And that's it.